Hey everybody, it's the first episode of UIO, the new podcast for teenage girls. Hugs to everyone and thank you for joining UIO, the podcast for teenage girls. It is for you and about you, inside out. I am Sonja Lewis, your host. We're kicking off with self-confidence and self-esteem, two of the most helpful and handy qualities that a teenage girl can have. Actually, we could all use a bit of both. In any case, we'll talk about why teenage girls in particular need a healthy dose of both daily. And that's not all we're talking about. Our special guest, Cheryl Grace, recently named one of the 50 most powerful women in business in 2017 by Black Enterprise magazine, is going to tell you how to get self-confidence and also how to use it to fuel your self-esteem. In other words, she will tell you how self-confidence can be used to get out of a jam. Well, I'm certainly all ears. Thankfully, Cheryl isn't keeping any secrets. One of my best friends, Cheryl and I met many years ago at a conference in New York when we were both young PR directors for our local Girl Scout councils. I remember being a bit shaky in confidence, but not Cheryl. She was the business then and still is now. One of the most confident women I know, Cheryl is Senior Vice President of Community Alliances and Consumer Engagement with the global research company Nielsen, and also has her own lifestyle training and public speaking brand, Powerful Penny. It's a wonderful venture that she'll tell us a little bit about later. But first, let's hear what she has to say about building your self-confidence and self-esteem. Welcome, Cheryl. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this particular podcast on self-confidence and self-esteem. If anyone knows self-confidence inside out, it has to be you. When I came to this subject, I couldn't think of anyone more qualified to talk to. I've seen you at different stages in your life, and no matter what has come at you, could it possibly have been a combination of your high self-confidence and self-esteem that has kept you in a good place? Not only have I admired you all these years for your amazing self-confidence, my mother-in-law, who was in her 80s when she met you at our blessing back in 2001 in Albany, Georgia. Yeah, that was a long time ago. She pretty much summed it up. This is a woman of presence, and she was a pretty confident lady, and she just thought, wow, when she met you. So I'm so glad that you could make it today.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Sanj. You know, I have loved you since you were like 20-something years old. So we won't say how far back that goes, but it's been a couple of years. Let's just leave it at that. And I never knew about your mother-in-law.
I know.
Wow, I wish I had known that back then because it's funny, as we talk about self-confidence and self-esteem, we see ourselves sometimes differently than how others see us. So that whole self-awareness, I think, is very much linked to self-esteem. And I have heard about this presence that people think I have.
You have it, girl. You have it.
I hear that, but I don't always walk in that space because I'm just me. And I think because I'm tall, I'm 5'9.5", and I wear stilettos, so generally 4 or 5 inch heels still. Although I got to say, it's starting to impact my back. So for the girls listening, you know, switch it out back and forth with the heels and the cute flats, girls, because you don't want it to throw your back out years later. But anyway, I just think that it's great hearing about that because I didn't always see myself that way. So I'm glad to be a part of this conversation on self-confidence and self-esteem.
I think that I want to be clear about what we're talking about when we talk about self-confidence and self-esteem. I think they are interlinked, but when I listen to us talking about it, they're not quite the same. Sometimes I'm really confident about something, Like when I was writing a novel, I was pretty confident as a writer. But then when I measured it against a friend's or a tremendously successful writer's work, for example, I felt awful, not good enough, a little low, in the esteem area. And as you say, we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. But I want you to talk to us about this. Give us your take on what's self-confident, what does it mean to be self-confident, what does it mean to have high self-esteem, and how they're linked together.
Okay, so first of all, let me say about your writing, because you're a great writer, and I have envied your ability to write not one, not two, but several books. For a person who, for years, I've been working my son is 20 now, and I think I started working on my first novel before he was born. So I still haven't finished it, and it's been about 22, 23 years.
But look what else you've done. You've done so much.
But I think that goes back to how we compare ourselves to others. And sometimes that's not the best thing to do, right? And so one of the things I know about social media, where teen girls and young girls in their 20s seem to really live and thrive. One study that I saw said that when young girls spend more than a couple of hours a week on their social media pages, their self-esteem tends to go down. And that's because they're comparing themselves to all of the other wonderful lives that their friends appear, and I'm putting appear in quotes, appear to be living.
Yes.
Because one of the things that you don't see a lot on social media is you don't see a lot of, oh my God, I feel so bad today. I got up and I looked in the mirror and my stomach is hanging down to my knees. I mean, you don't see that unless you come to my page, because I try to be as honest and authentic as I possibly can for just that reason. When people see other people living great lives, they assume erroneously that your life is perfect.
Right.
That will impact how you feel about yourself, how your self-esteem or your confidence, what that looks like for you, because you're comparing yourself to others.
Right.
That's not always healthy, especially if we're talking about young girls.
And so what would you say to young ladies? How can they start to build their self-confidence? Is it a skill?
I do think it's a skill, and it's a skill that I am still practicing today, even in my 50s. I have always loved affirmations, where you say certain things out loud. I have a set of affirmation cards that I pull from every day. One of my favorite cards is an affirmation that says, I am beautiful and everybody loves me.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, I still, because I speak in rooms full of 1,000 plus folks at a given time, the way that I center myself before I go on that stage is I see that affirmation card and the image that goes along with it in my mind. And as I'm standing there backstage or just off to the right of the stage waiting to go on, I close my eyes and I say, I am beautiful and everybody loves me. I am beautiful and everybody loves me. And then I take a deep breath and I go on. And I think, for young girls, if you can look at yourself in the mirror, or if you can just close your eyes while you're standing in the bathroom and say something positive about yourself before you leave the house, words really do matter. It really can have an impact on you.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of said it, but reiterate a little bit to our girls, our young ladies, why confidence is relevant. Why is having high self-confidence relevant today? Why is it important for them to have it, for any of us to have it?
Because you needed to face the world. You need to armor yourself with confidence, if you can think of it that way. Just like we put on coats and gloves when we go out into inclement weather, you need to put on confidence when you step out into the world, and you need to let people see your higher self, because the self that you present is the self that the world sees, and then they begin to kind of base how they communicate with you, how they act toward you, based on what they see, based on what you're presenting to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you have too much self-confidence?
Absolutely, you can. So I think, you have to keep in mind there's a difference between confidence and vanity and conceitedness or even arrogance, right? I think that those are offshoots of confidence. And if you have too much of it, it can be just as much of a turnoff as if you don't have enough of it. And so I think we should just be aware. Self-awareness is really great, and self-awareness goes both ways. Do people think I'm not confident, or am I not confident? Or do people think I'm overly confident? But that being said, I will also encourage people to never, ever, ever try to hide your shine.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm trying to think of the name of a movie that I recently saw, and it was based somewhere in Africa. And there was a young woman. It was all about a young woman learning to play the game of chess. And she was really fantastic. It was a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
And she became quite overly confident at one point, and she lost. And she had to sort of find the balance between having a healthy amount of confidence, because when she got to the point where no one can beat me, she got beat.
Yeah. I think, because along with confidence, if you don't have it or if you have too much, either way, you tend not to do the work that is necessary for you to excel. Like if you don't have enough confidence, then you may not think that you're even worthy of doing the work. If you have too much self-confidence, then you think, well, I don't need to work because, after all, I am me. So
yeah,
you got to be careful.
Been through those periods a little bit, but that does lead to this whole self-esteem thing. The self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. How can self-confidence then, if you have the confidence to do what you need to do to face the world, how can that help you with possibly building this self-esteem to face the world in your body?
So you have to stop and take a look at what you have, do a summary, and then thank God for, if you don't like your legs, thank God for what your legs can do for you. Yeah. You can walk, you can run, they can support you on stiletto heels. Give thanks for that, because we can't take that for granted. And oftentimes, I think when we're teenagers, we don't think about it until what happens if we should lose a leg. And then we wish, I wish I had my little dimply thighs then. So I just think it's really important to give credence to what your body can do for you, in addition to just how it looks.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I ran across some research as well from the Dove does the Self-Esteem Project. They did it in 2014. I think it's still ongoing with young people, young women around the world. And things that kept coming up over and over again had to do with body image.
I think if we can tackle being honest and say, okay, if there's something that you don't like about yourself, is there anything that can be done about it in a safe and healthy way?
Yeah.
And what's that strategy look like for that? But, not to get carried away. And again, to start thinking of yourself internally as the beautiful person that you are, as well as more than just the external package. But look, since I was 12 years old, I've been a size, my breasts have been like a size cup D. D as in dog. So like when you're 12 and you have a really thin frame, but you've got boobs, you're going to get noticed.
Yes.
that's not necessarily attention that a 12-year-old girl welcomes to have.
No, she doesn't.
So, being mindful of that, I didn't grow into being confident in that until I was maybe 15 or so. But I will tell you that if you've only had men oogling you or ogling you, whatever the right word is, since you were 12 years old, you begin to value men who like you because of the way you think first.
Yes. And that's an important point. I came across this, what I think is a really powerful definition of low self-esteem. And I think it's powerful because it is so very negative that if you think, oh my God, am I actually thinking that, it might have an impact on trying to get a higher self-esteem. And it was on Do Something, the charity's website. Mm-hmm. And it says, low self-esteem is a thinking disorder in which an individual views herself as inadequate, unlovable, and are incompetent. Once formed, this negative view permeates every thought, producing faulty assumptions and ongoing self-defeating behavior. And I wanted to share that because when you were talking, being 12 years old and, being more heavily endowed, if you will, than, other 12-year-olds.
D-cup breath, girl. Yes. Say it. D-cup breath.
Okay, this is straight talk. You're right. That's what this podcast does. And I think that's pretty powerful stuff. So I want to know, though, if you've got all of that going on, but can you really be self-confident if you have low self-esteem?
I think you can. I think that sometimes the self-confidence overshadows the self-esteem when you are good at something, and that's generally when the self-confidence shows. So I'm good at public speaking. Uh-huh. So even when I feel like I'm at my fattest weight, I know I can rock and roll on a stage.
Yes.
Right? That people won't be focused on my weight because they'll be focused on how great I am at what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So that's where the self-confidence kicks in. Yes. And when you have something that you think you're really good at, it will give you the confidence that overshadows the self-esteem. Now, how you may feel once you walk off the stage could be something entirely different. But when you're in the moment of wherever you're drawing that confidence from, it can overshadow self-esteem.
I think that's great.
Think at the core, you got to work on the self-esteem as well.
I think that's great and inspirational, and it's very much like your powerful penny.
Yeah, so my powerful penny is the concept behind it is just to work with young girls and women as part of my lifestyle blog and training and speaking and getting people to understand that every single aspect of you is important. Every single, and that we need to value every single aspect of it, and whether that, and I say powerful penny because it's even every single penny that you earn or that you spend, because we just spend money without even thinking about it, and we will leave pennies laying on the ground if we drop it. But there's value in that, and I think that's the way we have to start thinking about our bodies too. There's value for every part of our bodies, but we have to appreciate it and recognize it, and not be afraid to think of the value that our toes have. You don't miss a toe until you stub it, and you don't give value rather to your toe until you stub it, and you can't walk properly. And that's like a pretty little piece of your body. Every single piece of you counts. Yeah, and should be loved. It should be loved.
It makes me think about, the mind in particular, going back to that definition about your thoughts. So girls, ladies, and that's for all of us. Every thought counts as well.
Yeah, that's why I believe in affirmations. And there's one quote, by Marianne Williamson that I love. And I think that if I had known this when I was a teenager, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous, Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. That's one of my favorite quotes. I think it's appropriate for high school. I think it's dead on for junior high, and I think it gets even better when you get into college and the professional world. That you don't need to play small around anybody. There's enough of abundance in this world that you don't have to shrink so that other people won't feel insecure around you.
That is absolutely amazing. It's sort of, what can I ask now? But I'm going to find a question. I'm going to pull one out of the hat. What are some of the practical things that girls can do? We talked about what you can do to develop self-confidence, but in terms of self-esteem, and you kind of hit upon that too, because confidence helps to develop self-esteem. But are there other things, knowing that low self-esteem in particular can hold you back, that people can do to be able to make sure they're living their lives, that they understand how important every aspect of living is?
Yeah, I think it's important to make lists. I'm a list maker. So when you're suffering from self-esteem on a given day, make a list of the 10 things that you do like about yourself or your body. I like my breasts. I like my elbows. I like my hair. I like the way I laugh.
Yes.
I like that I'm smart. Like, make a list of the 10 things that you do like about yourself and focus on that list instead of focusing on what you don't like.
Yes. I think that's very important. And
sometimes you just have to, I'm sorry for interrupting, but sometimes we just have to fake it until we make it.
Okay.
And if you go out and pretend that you like, yourself and aspects of yourself, fake it until your subconscious clicks in and starts to actually believe it.
Yes. And once you've done this, what are some of the benefits and ladies are going to have for having high self-confidence and high self-esteem, or a healthy amount?
I think you're not going to be afraid to take on new challenges. I think you will be willing to speak up when you see something that a wrong that needs to be righted. I think with self-confidence, you are more likely to do more in school, take more risk in like the courses that maybe you'll take in school, because you'll believe in yourself that you can do it.
Picks up on another piece of research from the Dove Self-Esteem Project. They said that 75% of girls with low self-esteem reported engaging in negative activities like cutting, bullying, smoking, drinking, or disordered eating. And that's compared to 25% of the girls with high self-esteem. So that's to add to your list of the benefits of having high self-esteem is you might not have so much negativity in your life,
Yeah, it gets rid of the negativity. And what I would also say to girls, especially middle-aged school and teenage girls, hurt people. Right? And so usually girls who are engaging in some of the things that you just talked about, smoking and drinking and bullying and cutting, they tend to be hurt. They may have a negative outlook on some aspect that has impacted their lives.
Yeah.
And that negativity, then in order for you to be cool with them, you're going to need to be negative too.
Mm-hmm.
So I would stay away from negative people.
What can a teenage girl do herself to be able to help someone who has, particularly been hurt and has become quite negative and disruptive?
Positivity trumps negativity every time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a friend who's always ragging on another girl or trash talking or throwing shade at another girl, throw her some love. Be kind. So give out compliments like they're candy. Like, oh, but you look nice today, or I like your hair, or those are cool earrings, or whatever it is that you can find nice to say, because everybody wants to feel liked or loved. And so if you can be the change which you see in the world by giving that back to other people, they're going to kind of gravitate toward you because of that positivity, not because of their negativity.
That's all good stuff. What are the key things that you want to leave with girls?
So I'd leave these few tips. Number one, trust your gut. Trust your gut. If someone is being negative towards you and it doesn't feel right, remove yourself from the situation. Have the confidence to trust your gut and remove yourself from the situation. Number two, love yourself. You can't be happy until you learn to love yourself, because you can't get that self-love from anyone else. I mean, that's why it's called self-love. And then, you know what? Be gentle with yourself. If I had to say anything to my 18-year-old self when my face was racked with acne, it was, this time will pass. This too shall pass. You're okay. You're going through a phase. This too shall pass. Love yourself and cut yourself some slack. And don't talk to yourself in a way that you wouldn't talk to a really good friend.
Okay, that was fantastic, Cheryl. But it does sound like self-esteem and self-confidence are important to your day-to-day living. That it's an act of will. It's not just something that you get it one time and that's it. I've got it. I can move on now.
You're right. It's not. It's not something that just happens and you leave it and forget about it. It is ongoing. There are always going to be people gunning for you. There are always going to be haters in this world. And you got to arm yourself, like I said. And so I literally have on my bathroom mirror, so while I'm brushing my teeth, I have affirmations posted up on Post-it notes so that I can strengthen my mindset before I walk out the front door. So it is an ongoing thing, but it gets a little bit easier when you actually start to believe it. So, again, I say fake it until you make it. Use those affirmations. Don't be afraid to pray, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
That is absolutely fantastic. Cheryl Grace has given us some fantastic advice today. And I just thank you so much, Cheryl, for being here with us. We've got some of your best secrets. Now we know how she does it, everybody. We know it. We've got it now. And so we can all do it too. So I just can't say thank you enough for just extracting the time out of your busy life to do this podcast for teenage girls.
Anything for you, Sonj, and I happen to think that teenage girls are some of the most important people on the face of this earth. So anything for you, and certainly anything for them.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Cheryl Grace on self-confidence. That was absolutely fantastic. Reach out to her here or on Cheryl@powerfulpenny.com. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, God, for the opportunity to do the show. Today, I want to give thanks for each part of me and each part of you, and I pray that girls who have been hurt and sidetracked in their journey will get back on track for a happier, healthier experience. And also, I pray that every girl will achieve the right amount of confidence to face the world daily, and that this confidence will become the impetus for high self-esteem just when she needs it. We ask these blessings in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Tune in 2 weeks for some straight talk on body. I'll be hanging out with my personal trainer of about 3 years, the fabulous Judith Rasinka, who has the skinny on growth and health for you, the teenage girl. Join me then. Until then, hit me up on Twitter at Sonja Lewis, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, onthisandthat.co.uk/UIO-podcast. Tell me what you want to hear about right here, and send your questions for Judith too. Take care of you inside out, and remember, it is UIO.